It is Third Party Thursday, so you know what to expect. We will bring in a guest, and we're going to talk New York Jets. So who is it? I don't know, but I can guarantee you one thing. You will like who it is. So park your butt, and we're going to get some takes in. Let's go, son. Boy Green meets Wudi coming out live.
Zoinks! It is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans.
Field Yates, baby. Field gosh darn Yates. Let's bring him on the show.
Come on, people. Connor Rogers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor gosh darn Sycamore, baby, for me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas.
Welcome to another episode of Boy Green Meets Wudi. It is your boy, James Wudi, and you know who that is right there, Boy Green, rocking the green, a different type of green, but we're not going to talk about that, please. I do not want to barf on the show. It is Third Party Thursday, so we have a third member of the panel today. So without any further ado, let's bring him on. Let's get that handsome mug on my screen. Put it on my screen. Will Parkinson is here today. How you doing, Will?
Good. The intros never disappoint in the show. Whether it's Boy Green, you doing it, it's always 10 out of 10.
Wait, real quick question, Will. Are you wearing the controversial Jets hat? Is that on right now?
People are very upset about it.
Were you expecting that kind of reaction to the hat?
No, I thought people were going to think it was cool. So
yeah, I'm going to be honest.
I got a bunch of hate tweets about it. It was brutal.
I'm so sorry to hear that, Will. It's a part of our business, I guess. It's something to accept. I'm a hat aficionado, so I've seen a couple of the inverted ones where you get like weird ass colors, like it'll be like a blue or something, or all these bright. And I'm like, oh wow, these are always interesting. So hey, man, I respect it. Look at you. I just kind of noticed the burgundy. I'm like, could that possibly be?
No, listen, I get that it's not the traditional, even black, white, green, like whatever it is. It's just a stylish hat. And it's a Jets hat, so I figured put two and two together. I'm not going to wear this to a Jets game. I'm going to wear this, going to a bar. That's more of my thing. Or golf, I guess.
Okay, hey, that's all right. I appreciate it. Telling the people to shove it, baby. It's a Jets hat. Suck it, baby. I like it. Very nice. Yeah, there you go. Flip it to them. Let's get right into it, Wudi, here with Will. And I want to get right to this because I was reading it in Rich Samini's column today. There's been a bunch of people, especially in your Badlands family, like Joe Caparoso saying, hey, you know what? I'd like to see another veteran safety added to the mix at some point. And Joe's not alone in that. A lot of people feel that way. But according to the latest here from Rich Samini, he had it in his column today that despite some of the sexy names out there, he named Justin Simmons and Quandre Diggs, formerly of the Seahawks, that despite those names, the Jets are, quote-unquote, rolling with the group they have. Is that a mistake, Will?
I don't want to say it's a mistake because on paper, it's fine. If that's the worst group on your roster, it is what it is, right? I think that's probably, I would say universally, probably the weakest, quote-unquote, group of at least the starters, on the all-22. It's a mistake if you just go into the season and don't extend Reddick or don't try to extend Michael Carter or not make the trade deadline for Devontae Adams or Nate, whatever it is. I don't know. It doesn't have to be Devontae, just receiver help or whatever it is. I understand if they're hey, listen, as much as Justin Simmons would cost $6 million versus 14, what he probably would have costed, 3 months ago. Hey, we need to use this money Reddick's going to probably want 2 for 50 plus, whatever it may be, or Michael Carter might be a 3 for 30 guy or 4, whatever it may be. So if that's the plan to use the cap space for that and at the trade deadline, I get where they're coming from, right? Clark should be a good player. Ashton Davis has gotten better each year. You hope that he can take another step. Tony Adams, second year starting. Isaiah Oliver, I guess, has moved to safety. So it's not a mistake, but it's a mistake if nothing else follows. I think that's been a lot of the the way I feel like we've approached this Jets offseason, right? If the Jets just drafted Olu and didn't take a receiver, was that the correct pick? They took a receiver after, so the Olu pick feels better. I think I always relate back to any Jets decision. I relate back to that 2022 draft. Sauce was a great pick. And I don't think anyone was upset about it. But you were like, man, they still need a receiver. They still need an edge rusher. They still need a tackle. Was corner the biggest need? Well, they followed it up and got a bunch of guys. So you're like, wow, this pick looks even better. I think that's how I feel about safety. If they go out and extend Reddick and Michael Carter and trade for a receiver at the deadline, like, do I really care that safety is the weakest spot? Probably not. If Clark and Davis and Tony Adams are hurt by week 2 of camp, yeah, we're gonna be probably not feeling too good.
That's fair. In a vacuum. Those are those decisions. Go ahead, Woody.
That's an extremely good point, because while I was not upset, I was definitely, crying a little bit in 2022, because I thought Kayvon Thibodeau was going to be a Jet.
I was a KT guy. I was a KT guy. Yeah.
Yes. But like you said,
Jamal
at the end of the
Adams
night, your boy, I might have attempted my first ever back handspring that night. It did not, turn out well. But I'm going to shift gears, because I can't sleep, Will. I cannot sleep. And I don't mean to bring up personal issues on this show, but I cannot sleep because Hassan Reddick might be holding up the New York Jets at gunpoint. So it's a two-parter. It's a two-parter, because when you're up all night, that's a lot of time to just sleep and look up into the stars. Or sorry, to not sleep, to think and just look up into the stars. So I've been doing a lot of thinking. One, Bryce Huff was on the team. They didn't want to pay him, right? 17 mil. When he got that deal, I think a lot of us were like, oh, okay. 17, that's a little pricey. Now, fast forward, we're in a situation where we gave up assets for a player who's now asking for near $30 million. So at what point did Joe Douglas make the mistake? If it is a mistake, was it not re-signing Bryce Huff? Was it going after Reddick over one of the other options, like a free agent like Clowney or something like that? And the second part is moving forward in the future. Can we pay this man? Can we give him what he wants when the 2022 draft class is coming up to their extensions? What do you think about the past and future of this little quandary we're in?
Yeah, so a couple different things there. I think the one good thing for the Jets here is, I think the Niners struggled with this a lot last year, is what was Nick Bosa's price? Because Myles Garrett was at 25, but Nick Bosa just won Defensive Player of the Year. He was younger. The whole thing, right? It was like there's a whole wave, and Nick Bosa held out. He actually legitimately held out, which we don't really ever see anymore past camp, right? These guys come to practice and they hold in. Nick Bosa was like, I'm not coming to camp. And I'm getting $34 million a year. So that was like, okay, he reset the market, and Micah Parsons will reset the market again. Although I think Nick Bosa is a better player, but that's a whole nother discussion. The Reddick deal to me, and Paul tweeted this out on whatever day that was, Tuesday or Wednesday, and I quoted it because Danielle Hunter's the same age. He's the same position, pretty much the same productivity, and just got 2 for 49 from the Texans. The way this market always works, you always get just a little bit more if you're the second one. I would have loved to see the Jets have, when they traded for Reddick, to have gotten the deal done. Hey, they got the thing done, and the next day the deal's announced. Like that would have been the ideal scenario, right? Obviously, we're not in that position. Reddick has held out before, so this is not something new. So that gives me less concern. I think because we know what the number really should look like, he might ask for 30. I think realistically, maybe it gets to 2 for 55. I realistically think it's probably just like literally 2 for 50, and they make it this year. He gets more money. He'll get pretty much fully guaranteed in 2025. And then there's a bunch of void years that we forget about until we post an over the cap graphic naturally in February. Do I think, where did the mistake happen? So I don't want to say that any mistake happened yet, right? Because if they do extend Reddick and he plays really well, no mistake happened, right? It's a win-win. The mistake happened really 2 years ago, or this time last year, and when they should have just re-signed Huff to a 3 for 15, and we would have been like, this is the Quincy Williams, like this is the best value contract at the position in the sport. They didn't do that. He signed the $4 million tender, which was a huge raise for Bryce Huff at the time, but he was trending upwards. So it all kind of like, this was always trending this way. Maybe he wasn't always going to be a 10 sack guy, but he was always like the pressure is, if he plays enough, the pressure should convert to sacks at some point. They didn't do that. I would have loved to see the Jets, because of where they were last year, even at the deadline, you kind of had to know you were either going to pay him or you weren't, at least to some extent, even if he didn't get that much better. Like, they paid JFM week 4, a couple of years ago when he hit a hot start. You probably should have moved him at that point, especially if you weren't going to make a move to replace Zach Wilson. Like, maybe unload a couple pieces there. That's where I feel like the mistake, quote unquote, happened. Once he got to free agency, it was kind of cooked, unfortunately, because he knew that's what the Eagles were going to do. And the Eagles got Huff at a really manageable number this year. He should be awesome. I think Reddick will be really good here, and I do think they'll get him extended. But I think the mistake, if you want to put it that way, happened this time last year by leaving Huff at 24-year-old on a 1-year deal at a premium spot, knowing even if he went to somewhere else and just got the Carl Lawson deal, like, it still would have been a mistake. And, and now, again, Reddick's a better player right now, but you do have to extend him because, as you mentioned, you did give up assets, even if it's in 2026, and you don't really want to just sit there with a guy on a 1-year deal. Is it going to be this franchise tag situation? I feel like the numbers there, the parameters for a deal are there. Just get it done. Figure out a way. I don't know the cap gymnastics and void years and stuff, but it just doesn't feel like it's like kind of not a layup, but it kind of feels like it's like right there for you. The number's there. The player wants to be here. It's a premium spot. Get it done. You have the 5th-year option with Jermaine. So theoretically, Reddick would play these 2 years. Jermaine would be going to year 5, and then, which is crazy to even say out loud. And then, and then you pay him then.
You've made a lot of compelling points there, Will. My only potential counter would be, is there a way if the Jets can just say, hey, let's give him a little bit of a sweetener? It's very different. But like Saquon Barkley, they got him back to camp, said, all right, we'll give you a little bit of this, a little bit of that, even though the second thing was like garbage. Whoever his agent is, Jesus, I don't know what happened there. Because the sweetener stuff that they tried to work for him I would have been asking for more, because it seemed like ultimately the Giants were more desperate on that side of the fence. But he has this 1 year, 14.25 Hassan Reddick, non-guaranteed money. Maybe guarantee a little bit of it, or give them an incentive package that maybe can raise it from insert to insert. Yeah, right. And then you just kind of have that set up and say, okay, you're a hired mercenary. We know you want the bag. Go get the bag, the scheme, the defense, the talent around. You should have this crazy ass season, and then we'll figure it out after it. Again, another term your Badlands people are using is the last dance Jets. Hassan Reddick will have a fire
theoretically, if he had a great year and walked, which would suck, but then they would get a 3rd-round comp pick in the same draft. They would be losing it. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And then, in theory, if that's how it all plays out and you win the championship, who gives a flying hoot? But then Will McDonald or Jermaine are then your starting pass rushers heading into the following year, which would be 2025. So is there a path to a sweetener just to solve the sides, or does this have to be a long-term extension conversation?
It doesn't have to be a long-term extension, but I would say if this is really a 2-year window, I would say figure out a way to make this a 2-year window with him as well. I worry in terms of Reddick's here and he's great, and then you lose him. And like, what if Will McDonald's not the player that you want? Then you're looking for an edge rusher again next year, and it's like, are we doing the edge rusher in the 1st-round conversation for like the 25th straight year? That's just to me where it's like, if you're really in a 2-year window here and you're going to be all in, and then Rodgers is going to retire, and hopefully you have a Super Bowl, and you're going to pay Garrett and Sauce and and Jermaine and AVT and these guys, and reset the rookie quarterback. Like, let Reddick's money fall off then. I get what you're saying though. If can we fully guarantee this? And there's incentives to go from 14 to 25 if you hit 10 sacks and an all pro or whatever. Sure. I mean, maybe, but if I'm him, like, I probably want 2 years of fully guaranteed money. Like, why would Danielle Hunter's had injury history and got 2 years fully guaranteed? True. I've played every single game outside of one game having COVID my entire career for 7 years. Why am why should I have to bet on myself? I already did. I'm just saying, if I'm his agent, that's the
no. I get you. And I would say touche. Yeah. 100%.
But Carl Lawson, to me, the guaranteed money made sense, right? Because I mean, again, in theory, it would have made sense if he would have not been bad.
Right.
But it was like, hey, he's always hurt, right? He's always hurt. So like, I want to get fully guaranteed money. Incentives to me are they're not helpful, because what if I get hurt? Reddick, like, the incentives are cool, but for him, it's like, I should play all 17. I don't see why I should have to be an incentives guy. Tyron Smith, Mike Williams, those things make sense. Injury history for the Jets perspective, it's like, hey, like, go earn it, go play games. Where Reddick, I just feel like, I don't know. I just feel like this is one of those things that, like, we don't want to see drag on into camp. Just get it done.
Not.
Again, parameters are there. It makes sense. Just figure it out. For lack of a better terms, figure it out.
And the Jets have less leverage. They traded away JFM.
Yeah,
and Bryce
what leverage do they really have? Like, hey,
exactly.
We'll let you walk. Like, why'd you just trade for him then?
Exactly. Right. Unless another trades guy. That don't make no sense. Go ahead, Wudi.
Well, let's I don't know if I'm going to sleep any better at night, but let's move to the positive. And I'm going to go with Xavier Gibson, which is a guy who I feel like was completely overlooked, right? I mean, after the draft, people were still talking about, let's grab, Odell, let's get T, people just want endless receivers. I know I'm looking at somebody that was saying something like that, but Gibson's performance right now, I know, we're not going to overreact in May, but do you feel like he's been overlooked? Is there a chance that he establishes himself as somebody, I know we're talking Mike Williams, Garrett Wilson, I don't know why I said it in this order, but Malachi Corley as the big three. Could Gibson, kind of work his way in there over Corley? Like, what do you think about his performance so far?
Yeah, so the Gibson one and Brownlee, we've seen a lot of hype on either side, right? They're guys that were fun stories last year, made the roster on a team that was trying to go win a Super Bowl and drafted guys, and they had some moments last year. Obviously, Gibson had his moment week 1, had a couple of nice moments. I think against Atlanta and Houston had a couple of nice catches. Brownlee obviously had a couple of nice moments late on. I think you go into the season, and this is not the same thing, but I talked about Mekhi Becton like this last year. You almost go into the season where you expect nothing. And if you can, these guys can establish themselves as 53-man locks every year. That's a win, right? These guys are making $700,000, $800,000. Nothing to scoff at. I'd love to make that much money.
Yeah.
But in terms of that, I think that's a win. I think Gibson, you hope that he can contribute on special teams. I think you hope that he can be a guy that can do some reverses. You get some jet sweeps in there, can take some reps at receiver. For a team that's trying to go win a Super Bowl, I think hopefully he develops, but I think you can't count on it. And the same way with Brownlee, you hope that Brownlee turns into a guy that you could play and takes a large roster spot next year, and you're making, you save $12 million you could use for Hassan Reddick right there. But at the same time, I think the upgrading receiver part of it is it's not a desperate need, but if Mike Williams is struggling to get back healthy or Corley's not grasping the offense right away, I'm not based on his handwriting, I'm sure he'll figure it out. But, that's just kind of where you look at it and you say, that's where the Devontae conversation, these other guys will come into play. It's if you're all in, damn sure you're going to be all in. I like what I've seen from Gibson in the spring, and I think he had some nice moments last year. I'm just not there yet with he needs to be an every down contributor. I think they want Corley was Rodgers' guy in the draft, and I truly believe that. I think a lot of Randall Cobb and Debo and stuff like that. There is some pieces of their game. But yeah, Gibson he should make the roster. That if he makes the roster back-to-back years as an undrafted guy, that's a win, I think, for him and for the Jets.
All right, here's my final one here, Will, and I'm kind of curious about this. You just talked about this team, and I'm fully in it, but every once in a while I try to pinch myself and remove myself from my body, and I'm watching this show too. We're like, Super Bowl roster, obviously, New York Jets, Super Bowl roster. I'm like, yeah, you damn straight we are. So on the 53-man roster, though, how many actual jobs are open for business? Because this is not your Jets team from, 6-7 years ago where we have 40 roster spots open on the 53. Hey, boy, let's see who the hell's making this thing. But this time it feels like an opposite problem. There's so few up for grabs. How many, if you had to put a number on it, do you think are actual open slots here for training camp and as we progress to the cutdowns here in a couple of months?
5? I don't know that there's more than how many more than 5 really is there, right? You go through the roster. Quarterback, there's not an open spot. Mm-hmm. And I think Travis probably is an IR guy to start the year. Yes. But again, let's see what happens. Running back, there's probably 3 guys for 2 spots or 4 guys for 3 spots, roughly. Mm-hmm. And obviously outside of Brees.
No, I got you.
Tight end, it's probably Yeboah, Kuntz, and whoever else for 1 spot, maybe 2. Offensive lines, probably tackle 4, guard 3 type of situation. Edge rusher, probably not really a spot available. Maybe one defensive tackle, maybe one or two based on money. Linebacker, it's probably Sherwood, Surratt, Barnes for 2 spots. So really, it's only 1 spot available. Corner, I really don't think there's a spot available at corner. There's probably 1 DB spot available. Probably it's going to be between Bernard Converse, a potential veteran, Key. It was like the last pick of the draft. Like those guys are probably fighting for 1 spot. I just don't know that there's particularly a lot of spots because whether it's the actual level of the player, money, right? Like Lazard should be fighting for a spot, but they're not just going to cut him and eat $12 million in the middle of September. Like that's not. If we get to a point in the season where it's an abject disaster, maybe that's a conversation. But like in camp, clearly no one's taking that salary, and clearly the Jets don't have the flexibility right now. And I don't blame them to just eat $12 million. You have to basically try to get the best out of them. I just don't know that there's just not a ton of spots. Even like running back, I don't know. It's probably Izzy, and I don't think Tariq Cohen's making the roster. I'm not.
No,
I think it's more of a favor to him in terms of like, hey, you haven't been able to stay healthy, but you still might have some juice. If you're good, you can make the roster, and if not, at least we get you some reps, and you can kind of push some of these guys. There's at least a veteran in there. Maybe I'm wrong, and Izzy is a terrible camp, and they're like, hey, why don't we just keep Tariq Cohen? That's a possibility, but to me, it feels like more likely it's one of those guys is unfortunately probably a practice squad. Maybe Cohen could get through and be a practice squad guy. I don't know.
Sure.
That's it's always something. So I just think 5 spots, 6. I can remember years past where we're doing this and we're like, there's 25 spots available on like half the roster. We don't even know who's starting at receiver. It was like, do you think Perryman or Barrios will make the roster? And then they're both starting week 1.
Oh my God.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, but again, I don't think you're wrong when you say 5, 6 spots. It's just, but I think it's an indictment in a good way. Like, whoa, look at where this roster has come. Look at where they're at and why. Again, when the people LOL at the Jets roster, when I've seen the Jets have been prominently featured more times than not, when you're ranking the best rosters in the NFL, they've either been borderline top 10 for some people or top 5. And when other fan bases see, they're like, the Jets, what the hell are they doing at the top 5?
Those
I'm like,
are the
I
most
just can't wait to
annoying-
remind people.
They're just that stuff. I can't. It's just like, what do you like? No one's saying that they've accomplished anything. No one's saying anything. It's a roster ranking. It means on paper, who the fuck would you rank as the best team in the league? Peter Bukowski, like that. It's not about
him. He was actually who I was saying without saying, but I'm glad you did say
I just whatever. Credit to his work and all that different type of stuff. He does a great job of getting under people's skin. What I don't understand is like, it's like, oh well, this team that's number 7 beat number 2, 3, and 8. Like the Jets beat number 3, 5, and 6, and they had Zach Wilson at quarterback. So like, if you want to do that, like it's not about that. It's back of the baseball card. What roster would you rather have? And the Jets, back of the baseball card, is they have a guy who's an awesome quarterback or should be an awesome quarterback based on his history. Their running back should be really good. Their number 1 receiver should be really good. Their number 2 receiver should be really good. On paper, the offensive line's really good. On paper, it's a top 2 or 3 defense. That's why they're getting the credit they deserve. But when it comes down to it with any Jets team and any team in the NFL, they got to win on Sundays and Mondays and Thursdays. I'm just saying, like, it's a roster ranking based on back of the baseball card, who is on your roster at this present time. And the Jets roster on paper is very, very good. Again, let's see what happens. But, I was getting so annoyed. I almost quote tweeted like 15 times.
Oh, yeah.
And just tweeting. And I was like, I'm going to delete this. This isn't even worth it.
Yeah. And here's really the last one here. So you saw the NYJ Matt thing, Jets Twitter versus the beat in a football game. But I'm trying to figure out, where are you? Are you with us? Are you with them? A lot of people were kind of throwing that up there, that you're like one of those wild card picks, almost like all-time quarterback.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm not a beat writer, but I also technically I'm credentialed media. So what do I do? But I'm I sit in the seats every Sunday and in the upper deck. So I feel like to make it more even, maybe I would try to help out. But
okay. All-time quarterback. Okay, there.
But I also feel like, I don't know. I feel like I'm a Jets Twitter guy. Like I kind of feel like I have to roll with who fed the whatever the goddamn saying is.
Yeah,
the horse
right.
that feeds it, whatever, the mouth or whatever. Yeah, like I'm just, I don't know. I can't. I'm gonna roll with whoever pays me the most money.
There you go.
Capitalism,
I love that.
baby.
Put it down. I love it. A lot of fun, Will. It's been too long since we've hopped on together. It's great to have all three of us here for doing this Thursday special. We've been having a lot of wonderful Jets content creators join us on the show. A lot of fun, man. Doing a lot of great stuff. Quick plugs. What do you got going on this summer for content?
Yeah, so Antoine Staley's on today. We have a 20-minute bit. Devin McCourty, villain of the Jets, will be on Saturday.
Awesome.
And then next week, I know Janae Coakley's coming on. I have a cool potential film room coming out, which I'll just tease with a couple of Jets players walking through what they're seeing down and down. So I'm excited about that. Okay. I will ask Devin McCourty about intercepting Zach Wilson 150 times. I'm sorry, but I have to. I just need to know.
That's fair.
He's a New York, Jersey guy, went to Rutgers.
Yeah, Rutgers,
ended up a goddamn Patriot for 13 years, winning a bunch of Super Bowls. Ridiculous.
Yeah. Disgusting. But wow, a lot of great stuff coming. Will, that's awesome. Janae Coakley's awesome. I can't wait for all that other stuff. It's going to be phenomenal. Wudi, awesome show, man. And we're going to see everybody next week.
Yes, absolutely. Thank everybody for watching. And Will, thank you for gracing us with your presence and takes.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Take care.